I guess the question though is, if kids are learning now from a young age, smoking is bad, don't do it, tobacco is bad, and now we're going to start teaching them that don't use your parents' prescription drugs either, that's not bad. Is it not natural that some of them would then turn to something like marijuana?
Well, so two things I'd say. One is that we can take some examples actually from our experiences with food, right? Where we know that if we just tell people what not to eat all the time, don't eat cake, don't eat pie, like don't have soda, don't do this, don't do that. After a while, they just get frustrated and they either tune you out or they just throw their hands up and they say, well, what can I eat then? And then eating becomes a chore instead of a source of pleasure. And what we've learned a little bit from that experience is that it's not just enough to tell people what not to do, but we have to actually be proactive in telling them what to do, right? So that means for kids as well. Like many kids may be using prescription drugs or marijuana because they want to feel good, right? So the question is, what else can we provide in terms of opportunities for kids that will allow them to have fun in a way that's healthy and safe, that will allow them to enjoy themselves? If we don't provide those alternatives, then just telling kids not to do things is not a particularly effective strategy. You asked about Colorado, since we're right here. And Colorado is, I was here at Aspen last year, and we talked about marijuana then as well because we were in Colorado again. Colorado is a state that has legalized both medical and recreational marijuana, as many of you know. There are some other states that have done that, including Washington State, Oregon, and Alaska, and recently the District of Columbia. But the challenge we have here is that policy that's being made right now at a state level around marijuana is way ahead of the science around marijuana. And you can see this actually with medical marijuana, where while when a state legalizes marijuana for medical use, what we really need, if that was going to be done, is a good science that tells us what conditions it's effective for, in what doses, for which specific people, what side effects to look out for, and what's the appropriate way to both dispense and take that product. That's what we do for for every other medication that's FDA approved. But the problem is we don't actually have that data for marijuana. And so what you see...
Because researching it is illegal in most cases.
Well, I would say, rephrase that, and I would say it's because research on marijuana is more difficult than it should be. And the barriers to research are a big challenge. And one thing I'm happy about is that the Obama administration has actually taken steps to reduce some of those barriers, including increasing the supply of research-grade marijuana that's available to use, including also pulling down a review process called the PHS review process, which was another administrative barrier to doing research. And there's more and there are now over 60 trials that are or 60 research studies, I should say, that are being funded on marijuana by the NIH, by the federal government. There's more obviously to do to reduce barriers to research. But the bottom line is, whatever the reasons are for not having the research, if we don't have clear data that tells us a product is safe and effective for use for a medical condition, then we shouldn't be using it, because otherwise we're creating additional risk, and we may not even fully appreciate what those risks are. And that's my primary concern with marijuana. I think marijuana is an area where we should let the science guide us when it comes to policy. And when we don't have enough science, we should find ways to get it. My concern is that when we race ahead with making marijuana accessible for medical use without that data, then we're just creating additional risk.